Help me, date won't let me leave. La Scala restaurant, downtown, need excuse ASAP. Deborah's thumb hovered over send. Wrong contact. The text had already gone to a number she didn't recognize. Her date's hand tightened on her wrist under the table. Where do you think you're going? Her phone buzzed. Who's stopping you? Stay visible, coming now. The reply was terse, commanding, no questions about who she was or why a stranger should help, just certainty. Before she could process what she'd done, the restaurant door opened. The candlelight seemed to flicker. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the waitstaff froze. A tall Korean man in an open black suit jacket stood in the entrance, chest tattoos visible beneath the expensive fabric. His expression was stern, controlled, the face of someone who'd never had to raise his voice to be obeyed. His eyes scanned the room with predatory precision, then locked on hers. He moved through the restaurant like he owned it. Maybe he did. When he reached their table, he didn't acknowledge her date. He looked only at Deborah. This ends now, he said quietly. The candlelight caught the ink on his chest. Dragons, symbols she didn't understand, a history written in permanent decisions. Her date's grip released instantly. Before we dive into this thrilling story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Where are you watching from? Like and comment. 20 minutes earlier, Deborah had still believed the date might be salvageable. Brad, or was it Brett, had seemed normal enough at the networking mixer. Corporate lawyer, decent suit, knew how to hold a conversation, but somewhere between the appetizers and the main course, normal had dissolved into nightmare. You know what I love about black girls? His hand landed on her thigh under the table, fingers pressing into the fabric of her dress. That natural rhythm, I bet you can really move. Deborah shifted away, his hand followed, climbing higher. I need to use the restroom. She reached for her purse. We haven't even ordered dessert. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Don't be rude, Deborah. Do you know how hard it is to get reservations at La Scala? The hand on her thigh became a grip. Not painful, not yet, but unmistakably a warning. Around them, other diners enjoyed their meals. The sommelier poured wine at the next table. A waiter glided past with a tray of elaborate desserts. No one looked their way. Polite society had perfected the art of not seeing. Deborah's phone was already in her hand beneath the table. She pulled up her friend Keisha's contact, thumb flying across the screen. Help me, date won't let me leave. La Scala restaurant, downtown, need excuse ASAP. She hit send without checking. The response came within seconds. Who's stopping you? Stay visible, coming now. Her stomach dropped. Wrong number. She texted a complete stranger. Who are you texting? Brad or Brett leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. That's disrespectful. My friend, she managed. She's expecting me to check in. Well, check in later. Right now you're with me. His other hand reached for her face, fingers grazing her curls. God, is this all real? Can I touch it? Deborah jerked back. Don't. The restaurant door opened. The change was immediate, atmospheric. Conversations stuttered and died. A wine glass clinked too loudly in the sudden quiet. Even the kitchen sound seemed to mute. A man stood in the entrance, tall, lean, dressed in a black suit with the jacket hanging open. In the candlelight, Deborah could see ink across his chest, dark against his skin. Tattoos that looked expensive, deliberate, traditional. His face was stern, almost expressionless, but his eyes, dark and assessing, scanned the room with predatory precision. The maitre d' approached, then stopped mid-step. His face went pale. The man's gaze found Deborah's, locked, held. He moved through the restaurant with purposeful grace, and somehow everyone knew to get out of his way. A waiter pressed himself against the wall. Another diner looked down at his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Brad's hand was still on her thigh when the stranger reached their table. This ends now, the man said quietly. Brad laughed, nervous, trying for confidence. Excuse me, do you know who I am? This is a private dinner and you need to. The stranger's eyes shifted to him. Just that, a look. Brad's voice died in his throat. Leave, the stranger said, one word, barely above a whisper. Brad's hand released her leg. He fumbled for his wallet, threw cash on the table, too much, bills scattering, and stood so quickly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. You're insane, he muttered, but he was already backing away. Both of you, crazy. He nearly ran to the exit. The stranger turned back to Deborah. Up close, she could see the details of his tattoos, dragons, Korean characters, symbols she didn't understand. His expression softened fractionally. "You're safe now," he said. "May I drive you home?" Every instinct screamed that she should refuse, should call Keisha, should get as far from this dangerous stranger as possible. But Brad was gone. The restaurant felt suddenly breathable again, and this man, whoever he was, had come when she'd needed help. "Yes," she heard herself say, "please." In his car, a sleek black sedan with leather seats that probably cost more than her rent, Deborah's hands finally stopped shaking. The driver was silent, separated by a privacy screen. The stranger sat beside her in the back, maintaining careful distance. That's when she saw his hands. Strong, elegant fingers, manicured nails, and across his knuckles, just visible in the passing streetlights, dried blood dark against his skin. "What's your name?" she whispered. He looked at her, and for just a moment, something almost human flickered in those stern eyes. "Jang Hee-chul," he said, "and you should probably know, I'm not one of the good guys." Deborah's phone exploded with Keisha's ringtone before they'd gone 3 blocks. "Where are you?" Her friend's voice was pure panic. "I've been calling for 20 minutes. Your location says you're moving. Who answered your phone earlier?" "Deborah, I swear to God." "I'm okay." Deborah glanced at Hee-chul, who sat perfectly still, watching the city pass. "I'm in a car. Someone helped me leave." "Someone? What someone? Put them on the phone now." Deborah switched to speaker, her hand trembling slightly. "Keisha, this is Jang Hee-chul." His voice was calm, measured. "Your friend texted me by mistake. She was in an uncomfortable situation. I assisted." Silence. "Then you assisted, just like that. Why?" "Because she asked for help." "That's not an answer. Who are you? What do you do?" "I manage my family's business interests." A pause, "and I don't ignore distress calls." "What kind of business interests?" Hee-chul's expression didn't change. "Diverse." "Deborah," Keisha's voice went sharp. "Coffee, public place, 30 minutes. Send me the address or I'm calling the police." The coffee shop was busy enough to feel safe, quiet enough to talk. Keisha arrived before them, already at a corner table, phone in hand like a weapon. When Hee-chul walked in, Deborah watched the familiar pattern repeat, conversations faltering, people glancing up then quickly away. Even the barista's hand shook slightly when Hee-chul ordered. "You need to explain," Keisha said the moment they sat, "exactly what happened tonight." Hee-chul folded his hands on the table. The blood on his knuckles was gone now, washed away, Deborah realized, probably in the restaurant bathroom or the car. "Your friend's date became aggressive. She texted for help. The message reached me instead of you. I went to the restaurant and ensured she could leave safely." "Just like that, you dropped everything for a stranger?" "Yes." As he leaned forward, his jacket shifted. Deborah caught a glimpse of more ink, elaborate patterns disappearing beneath his shirt, covering his ribs, his chest. Not random tattoos. Intentional. Earned. "Are you Yakuza?" The question burst out before she could stop it. "Korean Mafia." Keisha inhaled sharply. Hee-chul looked at Deborah directly. "I'm someone who protects what needs protecting." Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Brad's, she realized with a jolt of nausea. "You humiliated me tonight, walking out with some Asian thug. You have no idea who you're messing with. I have connections. You'll regret this." The words kept coming, each message uglier than the last. Threats, promises of retaliation, details that made her skin crawl. Hee-chul leaned slightly to read over her shoulder. His expression went cold, not angry, something worse. Remote, clinical. "May I?" He held out his hand. Deborah gave him the phone. He photographed each message methodically, then handed it back. "This is handled," he said quietly. "He won't contact you again." "You can't just threaten people." Keisha leaned forward. "That's not how the world works." "I didn't threaten anyone." Hee-chul stood, reaching into his jacket. "I stated fact." He placed a business card on the table. Minimalist design, expensive paper, just his name and a phone number, nothing else. "If you need anything," he said, looking at Deborah, "anything at all, call." Then he was gone, moving through the coffee shop like smoke, leaving only questions and the faint scent of expensive cologne. "Girl," Keisha breathed, "what the hell did you just get into?" Deborah stared at the card, her thumb tracing the embossed letters. "I have no idea." The next morning, Deborah woke to silence. No texts, no calls, no threats. Brad's Instagram had vanished. His LinkedIn showed, seeking new opportunities. His job listing read, resigned. Her apartment building's mailbox held a manila envelope with no return address. Inside, surveillance photographs. Brad with different women. Brad entering a hotel with someone who wasn't his wife, a wife Deborah hadn't known existed. Time-stamped, dated, professionally taken. At the bottom, a note in precise handwriting. Insurance. He won't bother you, but if he does, these go public. HC. Deborah's hands shook as she stared at the photos. This wasn't just protection. This was power. Absolute, terrifying, efficient power. And somewhere in the city, Jang Hee-chul had photographs of her saved in his phone. 4 days passed with no word from Hee-chul. Deborah told herself it was relief she felt, not disappointment. She'd been rescued by a dangerous man, accepted his protection, and now it was over, back to normal life. Except she kept thinking about the dried blood on his knuckles, the way the restaurant had gone silent. His calm voice saying I stated fact like it was the most natural thing in the world. On the 5th day, a delivery arrived at her apartment. The piece was museum quality, a traditional Korean ink painting, mountains emerging from mist, delicate and haunting. The card was simple, written in that same precise handwriting. Dinner. I promise to keep my jacket on if that makes you more comfortable. HC. Keisha's response when Deborah called, have you lost your damn mind? Probably, Deborah admitted, already typing her reply. The restaurant was small, exclusive, tucked into a neighborhood she'd never visited. A private room in the back, low lighting, the scent of ginger and sesame oil. Hee-chul stood when she entered, and for a moment she saw something almost uncertain cross his face before the stern mask returned. You came, he said. You sent a very expensive bribe. His mouth quirked, not quite a smile, but close. It wasn't a bribe, it reminded me of you, unexpected beauty and simplicity. Over dinner he was different, still controlled, still watchful, but occasionally that dry humor surfaced like light through clouds. When she asked about the food, he explained each dish with quiet passion. When the sleeve of his shirt rode up, she saw more ink, patterns disappearing beneath the fabric. The tattoos, she said finally, what do they mean? He set down his chopsticks, considering, cultural tradition, family marks. He touched his wrist where a dragon's tail curled. Each one earned, some represent protection, others, he paused, other things. Show me. Hee-chul's eyes met hers. Slowly he unbuttoned his collar, revealing the full scope of the work on his chest. Dragons intertwined with Korean characters, flowers and flames, symbols she didn't recognize, beautiful and terrible. Are you afraid of me? He asked directly. I should be, Deborah leaned forward, but I'm not. Why did you really come that night? A stranger texts the wrong number and you drop everything. His jaw tightened. For a long moment he was silent. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. 3 years ago my sister was on a date. It went badly. She called me multiple times. I was in a meeting, important business. The last words came out bitter. I didn't see the messages until an hour later. By then he'd taken her to his apartment. Deborah's breath caught. She survived, Hee-chul continued, but I was too late to protect her when she needed me. His eyes found Deborah's. I don't ignore distress calls now, ever. The vulnerability beneath his stern exterior was almost painful to witness. This wasn't just a dangerous man playing hero. This was someone carrying unfinished grief, seeking redemption in strangers' safety. Tell me about you, he said, clearly needing to shift focus. Your work, your family, what matters to you. So she did, and he listened, actually listened, asked questions, remembered details. When she laughed, something in his face softened. After dinner, they walked. The night air was cool, the street quiet. Hee-chul stopped under a streetlight, and Deborah realized he was standing at a careful distance, giving her space, respecting boundaries his world probably didn't usually honor. May I? He gestured toward her hand. She nodded, and his fingers closed around hers. Warm, surprisingly gentle for someone with blood memory on his knuckles. May I see you again, Deborah? She should say no, should run from this man with his tattoos and his violence and his dangerous certainty, should choose safety over whatever this was becoming. Yes, she whispered, surprising herself. His car appeared as if summoned. As they drove, Deborah noticed another vehicle behind them, sleek, dark, maintaining precise distance. Hee-chul's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. His expression didn't change, but he pulled out his phone, spoke rapid Korean into it. The vehicle turned away at the next intersection. Who was that? Deborah asked. Hee-chul looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw the weight he carried. "My world," he said simply, "it's always watching." 2 weeks became a rhythm. Museums where Hee-chul explained Korean art with unexpected passion. Quiet dinners where he asked about her work. She was a graphic designer, freelance, building her portfolio. Cultural events where his presence created invisible barriers, people unconsciously giving them space. He never touched her without asking first, never pushed for more than she offered. For someone so capable of violence, his restraint was remarkable. The crisis hit on a Tuesday. Deborah's biggest potential client, a pitch she'd been preparing for months, and the presentation venue cancelled 3 hours before the meeting. "The building's having electrical issues," she told Hee-chul during their lunch, trying not to sound as panicked as she felt. "I can't reschedule. They're deciding between 3 designers today." Hee-chul pulled out his phone, made one call, spoke in Korean for less than 30 seconds. "The Park Hyatt's executive boardroom. 1 hour, everything you need will be ready." Deborah stared. "The Park Hyatt, I can't afford." "It's handled," he saw her expression. "Not a gift. Consider it an investment in someone whose work I admire." "How did you?" "I have relationships throughout the city," he said carefully. She realized then what she'd been avoiding. His connections weren't normal networking. This was power, real power, the kind that made impossible things happen with one phone call. The presentation went perfectly. She got the contract. That night both their phones rang, his mother, her father. The message was the same, it was time to meet. Her family's home was warm chaos. Her mother fussed over the table settings. Her younger brother Marcus immediately started interrogating Hee-chul about his car. Her father, retired army, still carrying that watchful energy, observed in silence. "So," her father said when they finally sat down, "Deborah says you helped her out of a bad situation." "Yes, sir." Hee-chul's posture was respectful but not submissive. Soldier recognizing soldier. "Tell me how." Hee-chul was completely honest about the rescue, the wrong number text, the restaurant, Brad's behavior, vague about everything else. Her father studied him. "What do you do, Mr. Jang?" "I manage my family's business interests." "What kind of interests?" "Diverse, sir." A long silence, then her father nodded once. "You protected my daughter when she needed it, that counts." Across the table, her mother smiled, and Deborah felt something tight in her chest release. Hee-chul's family was different. The house was a compound, modern, elegant, surrounded by subtle security. His mother was poised, polite, assessing Deborah with eyes that missed nothing. His father spoke little, radiating authority that made even Hee-chul straighten slightly. His sister was the surprise. She embraced Deborah warmly, whispered in her ear, "He smiles now, because of you." During dinner an associate entered, whispered urgently in Korean. Hee-chul excused himself, his father and 2 other men following. Deborah didn't understand the words drifting from the next room. But she understood the tone. Sharp, cold, something about territory, retribution, a name repeated with venom. Violence being planned in measured voices. When Hee-chul returned, he saw her expression immediately. "What we discuss in Korean," he said quietly, walking her to a window overlooking the garden, "isn't to hide things from you. It's to protect you from knowledge that could be dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "In my world, knowing things makes you complicit, or a target." His hand found hers. "I want you in my life, Deborah, but I need you safe more." As his driver took her home, Deborah looked back at the compound. Really looked. Guards at the gate trying to be subtle. Cameras on every corner. Through a window, she glimpsed something that might have been weapons, carefully displayed. This wasn't gray area business. This was a fortress. This was an empire built on things she couldn't unsee. And she was falling in love with the man at its center. "I need the truth," Deborah said the next time she saw him. "All of it, who you really are, what you really do." Hee-chul studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "Come with me." His private office was in a building downtown, nondescript exterior, luxury interior. The room was soundproofed, she realized, secured, a place where secrets could be spoken safely. "My grandfather came here after the Korean War with nothing," he began, "built an empire from a single restaurant, protection services for Korean businesses when the police wouldn't help, loans when banks wouldn't lend." He paused. "Not all of it was legal, most of it wasn't." "And you?" "Enforcement, protection, problem solving. His voice was steady. I'm the one they call when persuasion is needed. He shrugged off his jacket, began unbuttoning his shirt. Deborah's breath caught as the full scope of his tattoos revealed itself, intricate work covering his chest, his ribs, disappearing below his waistband. This, he touched a family crest over his heart, represents lineage. These, dragons coiling around his ribs, protection. Rank, his finger traced a phoenix rising from flames. Rebirth, transformation. His hand moved to his shoulder, where a darker image lurked, something violent, something final. This is from my first. He didn't finish, didn't need to. She understood. I've hurt people, Deborah, badly, people who threatened my family, our interests. His eyes met hers. I need you to understand what that means. Have you killed anyone? The question came out barely a whisper. The silence stretched, eternal, unbearable. Yes. One word, the weight of it filled the room. I'm transitioning our operations toward legitimate business, he continued, voice carefully controlled. Investments, real estate, legal enterprises, but it's slow, and some things, he touched the tattoo on his shoulder again, some things will always be handled my way. Deborah felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. She'd known, of course, had suspected, but knowing and hearing it spoken were different countries. I need to leave, she said. I need to think. He drove her home in silence. At her door, he stood at that careful distance he always maintained. I understand if this is too much, he said quietly, but I want you to know, these weeks with you have been the best of my life. I'll remember you always. Inside her apartment, Deborah collapsed. Terrified, attracted, confused, she called Keisha, who arrived 20 minutes later with wine and judgment. Just because he's honest doesn't make it okay, Keisha said firmly. But doesn't it? Deborah countered. Every safe man I've dated turned out to be dangerous in ways I didn't see. Manipulative, controlling, predatory. At least Heechul told me the truth. He could have kept lying. So you're going to date a killer because he's upfront about it? Deborah didn't have an answer. 3 days passed, no calls, no texts. Her choice, she'd asked for space and he was giving it. On the fourth morning, clarity hit like lightning. She'd spent her life seeking safety in men who performed goodness while hiding rot beneath. Heechul was dangerous, yes, but he'd never lied about it, never pretended to be something he wasn't, had protected her, respected her, given her space to choose. She called his number. I want to see you, she said when he answered. Really see you, your world, everything. An hour later, his car pulled up. He looked at her through the window, that stern expression covering something more vulnerable. Are you certain? Show me, she said, getting in. No filters, no protection. Show me who you really are. He took her downtown to a building that looked abandoned from the outside. Inside, descending stairs, the sound of voices growing louder, through a reinforced door. The underground gambling den stretched before her. High-stakes tables, well-dressed players, his associates moving through the crowd like sharks. The air smelled of expensive liquor and cigarette smoke and something darker. Power, money, control. Everyone bowed their heads when Heechul entered. This is who I am, he said, his hand at the small of her back. This is what I do, can you accept it? Deborah looked at the kingdom he commanded, the fear and respect in every face, the weight he carried. Then she looked at him, the man who'd come running for a stranger's text, who asked permission before holding her hand, who'd given her truth when lies would have been easier. Yes, she said, show me everything. Heechul guided her through his world with the same careful attention he brought to everything. The gambling den was exclusive, high rollers only, the kind of people who wore wealth like armor. His associates moved through the space with military precision, security disguised as hospitality. Everyone deferred to him. Not just fear, though that was present, but genuine respect. When he stopped to speak with an older Korean woman managing one of the tables, she smiled warmly, touched his arm like a favorite aunt. These people, he said quietly, have been with my family for generations. We protect them, employ them. When their children need college tuition, we provide it. When banks won't give loans, we do. Deborah saw the community aspect, the Korean language flowing freely, old country customs maintained in a foreign land. But she also saw the other side, the enforcer standing too close to a nervous player, the unspoken threats in polite smiles. A commotion near the back, a man on his knees, begging in rapid Korean, 2 of Heechul's men flanking him, their presence a threat without words. Heechul approached, listened, His response was firm but not cruel. One more week, then consequences. The relief on the debtor's face was palpable. You extended his deadline, Deborah said after. He has children, a sick wife. Heechel's expression was unreadable. But if he runs, I'll find him. He knows this. Necessary order maintenance or fear-based control. Deborah couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Later, in his private apartment, minimalist elegance, traditional Korean art, nothing excessive, she finally asked, "Why show me all this?" "Because if you're considering a future with me, you need to see all of it." He poured tea with practiced grace. "I won't build a relationship on illusions." He turned, and she saw him remove his shirt fully for the first time in proper light, every tattoo visible, every mark of his history written on his skin. But also a scar, jagged, vicious, across his ribs. "What happened?" She stepped closer, fingers hovering. 3 years ago, rival organization. I should have died that night." His voice went distant. "Sometimes I think I did, and I've been a ghost protecting others to earn my way back." Deborah traced the scar gently, feeling the warmth of his skin, the steady beat of his heart beneath. "You're not a ghost. You're the most alive person I know." Something broke in his expression. He kissed her, asking permission even in that, waiting for her response before deepening it. Clothes fell away. She touched each tattoo, asked its story, and he told her. The dragon that represented his father's legacy, the phoenix from when he'd nearly died, the flowers for his sister, the characters spelling protection, duty, honor. She accepted his history through accepting his marked skin. When they made love, he was surprisingly gentle, hands that had broken bones touching her like precious art, asking what she wanted, giving her control even as his own control fractured. After lying tangled together, his stern expression finally relaxed. He looked younger, almost peaceful. "I love you," he said simply. "I shouldn't, but I do." Deborah's heart felt too large for her chest. "I love you too, all of you, even the parts that scare me." He pulled her closer, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw him truly rest. Morning came too soon. Deborah woke to Heechul on his phone, speaking rapid Korean, his voice sharp. When he ended the call, his expression was cold, the mask back in place. "What's wrong?" He looked at her and she saw fear beneath the ice. "A rival organization knows about you, about us." His jaw tightened. "They're discussing leverage, ways to hurt me through you." "What does that mean?" "It means," he said quietly, pulling her close, "you're no longer just in my world, you're a target in it." Within hours, Deborah's life transformed into a cage of protection. A man in a sedan parked outside her apartment, another following at a discreet distance when she went to the coffee shop. When she confronted Heechul, his response was ice. "My enemies will try to hurt me through you. I won't allow it. I'm not a prisoner to be guarded." "You are now." The words came out harder than he intended. Command, not discussion. "Excuse me," Deborah's voice went sharp. "You don't get to decide how I live my life. I'm keeping you safe. By controlling me, by making decisions without asking." She stepped back. "This is exactly what I've spent my life avoiding." His jaw tightened. She watched him struggle, every instinct screaming to lock her away, keep her secure, control the situation, control her. Then something shifted in his expression. Realization, painful and necessary. "You're right," he sat down heavily. "I'm sorry, I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable, at having something precious to lose. My first instinct is to command, to protect through control." He looked up at her. "But you're not my asset, you're my partner. I need to remember that." They compromised. She accepted the protection detail. He accepted her continued independence, her work, her choices, her life. 2 days later, the rivals made their move. Deborah was meeting a client when 3 men entered her building, asking about her, threatening the receptionist. Her protection detail intervened, but the message was clear. That night, Heechul came to her apartment. His knuckles were split, fresh blood barely cleaned away. "It's handled," he said quietly. 3 men are in the hospital. They'll recover, but they'll never forget what happens when someone threatens what's mine." He looked at her directly. "I need you to understand, this is who I am. Is this someone you can love?" Deborah stared at his hands, violence done in her name, protection that required brutality. Keisha arrived minutes after he left, having been called by Deborah's shaking voice. "He's dragging you into darkness," her friend said. "Can't you see that?" "Or maybe," Deborah replied slowly, "I'm bringing light into his darkness." The call came the next morning. Unknown number, a smooth voice speaking English with a Korean accent. Ms. Dala, my name is unimportant. What matters is that you're in danger because of your association with Jang Hee-chul. A pause. Leave him. Disappear for a while. We'll ensure your safety. Stay, and we can't guarantee what happens. Deborah's hand was already recording. Why do you care who I date? Because he's weakened, distracted, vulnerable, that benefits us. Your choice, his destruction or your safety. I'll think about it, she lied and ended the call. She drove straight to Hee-chul's office, handed him her phone. He listened to the recording, his expression going colder with each word. I choose you, Deborah said firmly before he could speak. Stop asking if I can handle this. Stop waiting for me to run. I'm still here. You shouldn't be, his voice cracked slightly. I'm terrified I'll ruin you. Everything I touch becomes part of this world and you're light, Deborah. You're good. I'm going to stain that. She took his scarred hands in hers. You don't stain things, you protect them. That's what you do, Hee-chul. Let me protect your heart the way you protect everything else. He pulled her close and she felt him trembling, this dangerous man, finally allowing himself to be afraid. His phone buzzed, he read the message, and his whole body tensed. What is it? Emergency council meeting, tomorrow night. His eyes met hers and she saw something she'd never seen before, uncertainty. My family's board wants to vote on whether you're a liability. Some think you make me weak, compromised. He touched her face gently. I have to defend our relationship to the organization if I lose this vote. He didn't finish, didn't have to. If he lost, she would have to choose, him or his entire world. The council room was traditional Korean, low tables, floor cushions, formal arrangements. Hee-chul's father presided at the head, flanked by the organization's elder members. The air was thick with tension and incense. This woman makes you vulnerable, his father said in Korean, which was then translated for the record. Weakness we cannot afford in our position. Other voices joined, security concerns, divided loyalty, cultural inappropriateness, each argument carefully constructed, rationally presented. Hee-chul stood to respond. She makes me stronger, more focused, more human. Everything I'm doing to legitimize our operations, she's part of that transformation. He was dying inside, his sister added quietly. Now he lives again. The door opened, every head turned. Deborah stood in the entrance, dressed formally, chin raised. If you're discussing me, I should be present. Shocked silence. No outsider had ever addressed the council uninvited. You have no right, one elder began. I have every right, Deborah stepped forward. I understand your concerns. Yes, I'm from a different world. Yes, I don't understand all your traditions. But I see Hee-chul, not just his role, not just his reputation. The man. And that man is transforming this organization, making it sustainable for the next generation. Let him finish what he started. Hee-chul's father studied her for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, he nodded. She has courage, proceed, but consequences are yours to bear. Outside, Hee-chul pulled her aside. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Deborah grinned, both usually are. 6 months later, their lives had woven together seamlessly. Deborah had learned basic Korean, enough to understand family conversations and order food without help. She knew the protocols, when to bow, how to address elders, which shoes to remove before entering certain rooms. Hee-chul had transformed 60% of the organization's operations into legitimate enterprises. Violence had decreased significantly, replaced by legal pressure and strategic business moves. When Deborah suggested alternatives to intimidation, he listened. Her business acumen provided solutions his world hadn't considered. He attended her client presentations, his presence making her feel invincible. She accompanied him to family obligations, learning to navigate the complex hierarchies with grace. Their apartment, they lived together now, reflected both cultures. Korean art beside her African diaspora pieces, his minimalist aesthetic softened by her colors. Cooking together became ritual, his japchae and bulgogi meeting her jerk chicken and collard greens. In bed, his tattoos were no longer symbols of danger, but a familiar map she traced in the dark, knowing every story, every scar, every mark of his journey. The moment that proved everything came on a Tuesday. A business dispute, the kind where old Hee-chul would have sent enforcers. Instead, he made calls, gathered evidence of the other party's tax irregularities, applied pressure through legal channels, resolved without a single threat. His associate stared. Boss, this isn't how we. It's how we do now, Heechul said firmly. We evolve or we die. From across the room, Deborah watched the man she'd helped create, still dangerous, still commanding, but choosing a different path. Transformation through love wasn't a fairy tale. It was work, daily work. That Friday, he told her to dress formally. Where are we going? You'll see. La Scala, the restaurant where they'd first met. Deborah's heart began racing as they were led to a private room, candlelit, intimate, exactly like that first night but completely different. Everything had changed since then. Everything. You know, she said as they sat down, the last time we were here I was terrified. Of your date, Heechul said, his hand covering hers, or of me. Both, she smiled. Now I'm only terrified of how much I love you. His expression softened, and she noticed he kept touching his jacket pocket, checking something. Her breath caught. Heechul. Let me do this right, he said, and she realized his hands were shaking slightly. This man who faced down rivals without flinching was nervous. Something significant was definitely coming. The candlelight flickered exactly as it had that first night. Same restaurant, same intimate glow, but everything else had transformed. Heechul kept adjusting his cufflinks, checking his pocket. She'd never seen him nervous before, not facing rivals, not addressing the council. But tonight, his hands weren't quite steady. Remember that text? Deborah asked, trying to ease his tension. Help me, date won't let me leave. A hint of a smile. I remember thinking, who's stupid enough to ignore a distress call? I was so terrified that night, she admitted. Of Brad, then of you walking in like you owned the place. You should have been terrified of me, he said seriously. I was dangerous, I'm still dangerous. But not to me, she squeezed his hand. Never to me. Heechul stood suddenly, came around the table, and knelt beside her chair. His hand trembled as he took hers. Deborah Dalla, you texted the wrong number and changed my life. His voice was rough with emotion. That night I was a man haunted by failure, defined by violence, living half alive, going through motions, protecting others to fill a void where my soul used to be. Tears pricked her eyes. You saw past the tattoos, past the reputation, past the blood on my hands. You saw me, the man I wanted to be but didn't believe I could become. He produced a small box, opened it. The ring inside was stunning, unique design blending Korean elements with patterns from her heritage, custom made, perfect. I'm still a work in progress, still have darkness, still make decisions others wouldn't understand, but with you I'm becoming the man I was meant to be. His eyes met hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life protecting your heart while you heal mine? Yes, Deborah whispered through tears. Yes, absolutely yes. As he slid the ring onto her finger, he stood and removed his jacket. His tattoos were fully visible now, no longer hidden, no longer symbols of shame but of history, of transformation. All of me, he said, you get all of me. All of me, she echoed, pulling him close, wrong number and all. They kissed, tender and passionate and utterly public. He didn't care who saw, neither did she. The restaurant erupted in applause. Deborah looked up to see their families, Keisha, his sister, his associates, everyone they loved, waiting to celebrate. He'd planned this, every detail. 1 year later, their wedding was a masterpiece of merged worlds. Heechul wore modern Korean formal wear, his chest tattoos partially visible beneath the traditional fabric, proud of his identity, his history, the man he'd become. Deborah had designed her own dress, white silk incorporating Korean and African patterns, honoring both heritages. She'd never felt more beautiful. The ceremony was bilingual, vows in English and Korean, traditional elements from both cultures woven seamlessly together. When Heechul's stern father smiled, actually smiled, her mother whispered, miracles do happen. Their parents embraced like old friends. Keisha's toast, to wrong numbers, scary dates, and love that transcends every boundary. I thought you were crazy, girl. Turns out you were just brave enough to see what the rest of us couldn't. His sister's toast, you saved him from becoming the monster he feared. Our family will be forever grateful. Their first dance was candlelit, the same atmosphere as La Scala, but warmth had replaced danger, beauty had replaced fear. Heechul held her close, swaying to music that mixed Korean traditional with contemporary soul. Remember that text, he murmured against her hair, help me won't let me leave. I remember your response, she whispered back, coming now. I'm still coming for you, he said, his hand over her heart. Anytime you need me, anywhere, always. Deborah placed her hand on his tattooed chest, feeling his heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. His hand covered hers. Two worlds merged, two hearts beating as one. Wrong number, right destiny. As they danced under the lights, surrounded by everyone they loved, Deborah thought about that terrifying night at La Scala. How a single mistake, one wrong contact, had led her here. To safety, to love, to home. Sometimes the most dangerous wrong turn leads to the safest place you'll ever know. Thank you for listening till the end. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. Where in the world are you turning in from? Let me know in the comments so we can connect and share our thoughts. I appreciate the time you spent here with me today.